Hello, this is Archie Dunlop with Talking Astrology with Archie on Tuesday, June 6, 2023. Yesterday I talked about the Six-Day War when Israel attacked its Arab neighbours on June 5th, 1967. I didn't talk about it because I wanted to talk about war per se. Rather, I wanted to use it as an example of how astrology might be used to select the start of an event. Not that I'm suggesting, but astrology was used in the case of Israel's decision to launch its attack. And I want to continue on that theme today because it is the 79th anniversary of the D-Day landings, which were on June 6, 1944. So when we think of the D-Day landings, we think of these beechcrafts appearing on the horizon, storming these beaches. In Normandy, we think of Omaha Beach, where the Americans took massive casualties. But actually, the hostilities started earlier in the day. As far as I can see, the first big action took place just after midnight. I think at 16 minutes past midnight on June 6, 1944, there was a glider landing. And I think some British soldiers managed to capture a bridge, the Pegasus Bridge. And so arguably that is the start of the D-Day landings. So the D-Day landings started really in the middle of the night. So what I want to do is look at the horoscope for the start of D-Day and see whether this can, tell us anything astrologically about what we should look for if we're contemplating something similar. Well, we're not actually going to be launching a sea invasion. I don't think many of us are going to be launching a sea invasion in our lifetimes, but maybe some other aggressive action, lawsuits, for example. It's said that when you launch a lawsuit against someone, you should make sure that Mars is in a good condition. When Hitler invaded Poland, although his invasion of Poland was successful, the Germans did actually lose 10,000 soldiers or something like that in their invasion, which is not actually a trivial amount of men to lose. Mars was retrograde. So Mars, the planet of aggression, was retrograde when you start a war. That is not good. So that's something we'll consider when we look at the chart, the D-Day chart, which I'm thinking is the start of it is that glider landing. Others may disagree. So anyway, let's look at the chart. The picture, by the way, is of Pegasus Bridge. This was the bridge that had to be captured before, and right at the beginning. And so here's the chart. So it's the middle of the night. 12:16 a.m. and you can see that it's just before a full moon. Now, whether you attack on a new moon or a full moon, that is of major military significance, regardless of astrology. So I don't know whether it was cloudy or not, but there was a full moon pretty much that night. So I don't know, that's not great. I wouldn't want to launch any big initiative, whatever it was, when there was a full moon coming up, because full moons tend not to be fortunate. The moon is function in a chart. So if the moon is applying to an opposition of the sun, that's not good. Yet we must remember that this is an aggressive action, and the moon is in Sagittarius in the 10th house. At least, I might not have the timing exactly right. I might have got the time, different. I'm not quite sure whether this was German time or British time. or whether there was any difference. So I haven't really looked into that. So, but it was around this time of day. And you can see that the moon is making a trine to Mars. So if you are conducting aggressive action, having the moon trine Mars is that's a good thing. That's a good thing to do. So that's certainly a plus. So before the moon makes the full moon, it makes that trine to Mars. Now, yesterday I said that the aggressor is the ascendant, and the, if you like, the defender is the descendant. Now, I mean, I'm not saying that as a hard and fast rule, but I put up the suggestion. So you would think that logically that would make the aggressor, the British, the Americans, whatever. I mean, okay, I know in the big scheme of things, the Germans were the aggressors, but when you're actually looking at the D-Day landings, it was the British and the Americans and Canadians and whatever. They were the ones that took the initiative. So I would take them as the ascendant. But if you look at the ruler of the ascendant, Capricorn rising, and then you find that it's Saturn. And actually, Saturn is not in a very good position. So that's a problem with the chart. And then the defender would be the moon. Is the moon in a good position? Well, it's the moon making the trine to Mars. So how do we square that? Well, one way of looking at it is to consider the possibility that maybe Saturn isn't the only ruler of the ascendant. Mars is exalted in Capricorn, so we could take the aggressor as being Mars. That's certainly a possibility. Moon applying to the trine of Mars, again, that is good. Then there's a question: is Mars in a good position? Now, when I first started learning astrology, we looked at signs, and we looked at dignity. Is a planet in its sign? For example, if Mars was in Aries, which it rules, it would be well placed. If it was in Capricorn, where Mars is exalted in Capricorn, it would also be in a good place. Then there were other minor dignities, but here this Mars is not in any dignity. It's in the jargon, it's peregrine, it's without dignity. And so you might say, hold on, you're trying to start an invasion of continental Europe, and Mars has got no dignity. So there's a problem there. However, recently in astrology, there's been this big move to open up traditional astrology, to look at what a variety of ancient sources have been saying about the planets. And Robert Hand wrote a booklet about something called SECS, that's SECTS, where he was using ancient sources and looking at 3 ways in which a planet could be strong. So if you look at Mars is a nocturnal planet. That's the traditional view of Mars. It's nocturnal. And this is a nocturnal chart. In other words, it's midnight. So Mars, because it's a nocturnal planet, benefits by the fact that it's at night, number one. So in that sense, Mars has got some strength. Then if a planet is nocturnal and it is night, it benefits by being above the horizon. And we can see that Mars is above the horizon. So that's a second bonus for Mars. The third one is that unusual for a nocturnal planet. It is masculine. And so it likes being in masculine signs. And we can see that Mars is in Leo. So by those three rules, Mars is actually very strong, even though it has no dignity. So this might be really good for starting the invasion of continental Europe, a planet that is in the right place by these sects. It's in these three sects. It's all in the right place, and the moon is going to the trine of Mars, and so that first attack on the Pegasus Bridge that you can see there was indeed successful. So anyway, that's D-Day, 79 years ago today, and it was certainly a major event. Now let's look at the positions of the planets for today, and it is June the 6th, 2023. So what's going on? The moon is still in Capricorn, and it's making a trine to Mercury and Uranus. There's Uranus at 22 Taurus, there's Mercury at Uranus at 20 Taurus, Mercury at 22 Taurus. So that gives the day some energy. Many of us are going to have some exciting ideas, perhaps connected with money and business. After all, Capricorn and Taurus are earth signs, and so we might suddenly have an inspiration about how we can make money. Or if we're talking to people, we might suddenly be talking about money and business, and it might all come together. And so we mustn't doubt our own abilities to be successful with the moon making a trine to Mercury and Uranus. But the day does have a little bit of a downside. There isn't a lot of water in the chart. Now, you can see that Saturn is in Pisces and Neptune is also in Pisces. Okay, these planets are going to be in Pisces for a long time. So, we're talking years. So right now, in this time in history, we're not going to get a day when there are no planets in water. But water is low at the moment. Low water. So what does that mean? It means that the emotional energy today is going to be low. People are going to be less emotional than usual. They're going to be thinking more about material details. So bear that in mind. And in terms of relationships, don't expect too much, don't expect too much warmth and love and, hugging, all that kind of emotional fuzzy stuff. It's not really that kind of day. So that's one thing that does need to be said. Another thing is that this Sun-Venus semi-square, remember, the Sun and Venus are at 45 degree at a 45 degree angle, and they're moving pretty much at the same speed. So as they go through the sky, they're hitting midpoints. And the midpoint they're hitting today is the Uranus Hades midpoint. And the Uranus Hades midpoint is actually quite nasty. It could be about suddenly getting into a bad situation, sudden associations with criminal elements. We think we're in a situation, it's completely normal, and suddenly it goes nasty. So that requires us to be a bit careful. Don't if you're meeting strangers, perhaps you're selling something on Craigslist or whatever. Don't do it. Take extra precautions with Sun and Venus on the Uranus Hades midpoint, because things could go wrong very quickly, and you might see criminality and unpleasantness in places where you don't expect to see it. Maybe people that you thought were completely honest and clean and whatever will show a dark side to their personality. And while all that is going on, the Mars-Uranus midpoint is on the Aries point. So the Aries point is the world at large, and then you've got Mars-Uranus there. And so, Mars-Uranus is about it's about explosions, it's about violent action, and so there might be a certain sense in the world that things are really quite unstable. The Uranian school regards that as being about not just they talk about uproar, rebellion, and excitement. So look around you, look for that sense of excitement, and look at how that sense of excitement could get out of control. But I do want to end when I look at today's planets on a more happy note, and Jupiter is making an aspect to the hypothetical planet Apollon, and according to the Uranian school, Apollon is connected with business, musical talent, and when you've got Jupiter aspecting Apollon, this may be a great time for business. Now, I've already said that Moon trining Uranus and Mercury could be good for business negotiations, for having wonderful ideas. And with this Jupiter hitting Apollon, that really emphasizes this point. There may be ways to make large amounts of money. Okay, not today, but a scheme might start taking shape. Now, as far as my forecasts for the 12 signs are concerned, here goes. Aries, you have a clear sense of purpose and you want to shake things up. A few words can cause an earthquake. Taurus, today you have a long reach, with people the other side of the world understanding your message. Gemini, the bigger the complication, the bigger the opportunity. Partners' talents need to be nurtured. Cancer, let other people work their magic and don't interfere. Soon enough, your special role will be revealed. Leo, something nasty is in the air, and that's because the Sun is on the Uranus Hades midpoint. So steer clear of trouble and don't take risks, and be choosy with your friends. Virgo, there's something not nasty, but actually exciting in the air. But if you want to turn potential into reality, you need to reach out. Libra, if you are handling something dangerous, you need to do it from a vantage point of safety. Facts can be scary. Scorpio, today you are surprisingly tolerant, and there are people that you normally can't deal with, and today somehow you'll find some way of handling them without going completely insane. But someone out there is being stupid. Sagittarius, you are talented, and it's a great day for showing off your business skills. After all, Jupiter, your ruler, is making an aspect to Apollon. Bold words about money are impactful. Capricorn, it's okay to be imaginative. You might think you're sounding silly, but actually you're coming over as being someone who is exciting and inspiring. Aquarius, some people appreciate you and others don't. And in your own secluded sphere, your ideas rule supreme. And finally, Pisces. You can show the world how smart you are without having to think or plan. But don't underestimate your friends and associates. So now let's finish with the I Ching. Sorry, I haven't got any pictures today. So I threw the coins, asking the usual question, what is Tuesday going to be like for people visiting my YouTube channel? And the first hexagram I got was 32, which is duration. So the idea there is we're doing something and we keep going until we eventually get what we want, until we reach our target. However, there is a problem, because I think if we do that, there'll come a point where we realize it's not working out. We might have got our targeting wrong. We might be slightly in the wrong area. You know, the I Ching talks about being somewhere where there's no game in the field. So what do? Do we keep persisting with a bad plan? I don't know. I think at some stage we need to have some flexibility, and we need to reconsider what we're doing. Now, that doesn't mean stop it entirely. It means a slight change of strategy, because once we have that change of strategy, we move to a different hexagram, and 32, duration, moves to hexagram 46, which is pushing upwards, and we can come together, perhaps with other people, and through persistence, but also through flexibility, we could eventually make progress and get what we want. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say for today, and I will talk to you tomorrow.